Mommy. Hi, Mommy Hermosa. Hi, Chiquita. Hi, baby. You okay? Hi, everyone, and welcome to this channel that I keep posting to and then abandoning, and yeah. Anyway, today I'm going to repot an orchid. But then the baby woke up and then I remembered I was hungry, and if I want to eat, then I have to cook something myself because I'm a mom. So that's what I'm doing right now. I've got beef, chicken broth, and tomato sauce. I'm cutting up the potatoes, and then I'm gonna cut up some carrots. Oh, you okay? Are you okay? Hey. Oh, you're cleaning? Awesome. Mommy, you okay? Yeah, she just woke up from a nap, so she's gonna want me to pick her up very soon. Anyway, I'm going to cook the meat till it's, you know, all the way done. Then I'm gonna throw in the chicken broth, as much as you want if you want to try to make this at home. Tomato sauce, obviously got the seasoning for the beef. And then once you throw in the tomato sauce and chicken broth, bring it up to a boil, add your veggies until they are all the way cooked. If you want to add rice, you can. I don't. And that's basically it. It's like a, yeah, I'll show you. Okay, an hour later. I have quite a few orchids over here, and I actually need to repot like 3 of them, but these 2 are still in bloom, so I'm gonna wait a little bit longer before I repot those. And I also don't have enough orchid bark, so I'm gonna go ahead and repot this one right here. So it's pretty big. I don't know if I have a container for it, a pot I mean. I was thinking of using that white one, so hopefully that one works. Otherwise I do not have something to put it in. Okay, so here we go. Hopefully it'll fit in there. The one that was in here is this one. It used to be in here and then I repotted it in there. I actually have some videos of this one and I'll post those below. So yeah. Okay, I served our bowls. My husband is at work. The girls are with their aunt, so it's just me and Noah. The baby had her dinner. She had some milk, held her for a while, and now I think she's just ready to go back to sleep. So this is usually when I'm alone, this is what I do. I just have her wherever I am, doing dishes or cooking, and then I just use my foot to bounce her. And that's how we do it when I can't hold her. Otherwise I usually hold her. But anyway, here we are. Let me see. So I think this will be good, and if it's not big enough I will just buy another pot. Once orchids are pretty big, it's kind of hard to find pots unless you find something online. In my experience, because the things you find like in your local stores like Home Depot and Lowe's, the pots are not that big, so when orchids are already big it's kind of hard to put them in something bigger. That big one I showed you, that was over there, that one is in terracotta, and that's my first time putting an orchid in terracotta, so hopefully this will go in here comfortably. But yeah. Okay, so I just remembered that I have this terracotta, and that's actually the decorative pot that this came in. So it was like this, and it's not really that much bigger. I don't think the white pot is all that big either, so we will see. And by the way, this was for a candle, and then I just had my husband drill a hole in the bottom. I'm always on the lookout for anything ceramic that could work for orchids. That's not necessarily an orchid pot. And then a lot of times it comes out cheaper that way. So let me see. Let me think. These are honestly, this one's wider like all the way down. So the width on the bottom is like the same at the top. Bless you, baby. This one is more narrow at the bottom and wider at the top. So I think I'm going to stick with this one. And then one of the other two orchids, when it comes time to repot those, I'll use this. Okay. That other big orchid too, by the way, it is the first time I've ever put an orchid in terracotta. I've seen people that do it, and then I've seen other people that don't want to, just because the roots tend to get stuck to the terracotta because of the material it's made of, and then they struggle when it's time to repot it because you don't want to rip the roots. But I don't think it's a huge deal, so I don't mind doing it. Oh my gosh, and isn't this so cute? I found this like teeny tiny one, and it actually has a hole on the bottom, and I got this at Michael's just to have in my collection. I really want to get a little string of hearts and put it in here. I think that'd be super cute. And there is a nursery that has string of hearts, but they're charging like $14 for it, and it doesn't look that full, so I kind of don't want to get it, but then I kind of do, so maybe I'll go and get it eventually. But yeah, I also don't do well at all with succulents. Anyway, for my tray, this was from Thanksgiving. So I just used it because we get together and everybody gets something different. My mom makes the turkey, and then my brothers and sisters, we all get like the sides and the desserts. Mine is just rolls. Mine is like super easy. I just buy them made at Costco, and then I throw them in here and throw it in the oven. So yeah, I'm gonna use this. So I'll kind of talk about what I'm doing, but I'm not a professional at all, so I'm pretty sure everybody's gonna have different thoughts on this. But this is a big orchid. I'm also gonna go get my other tripod, so hopefully I can give you a better angle. Okay, so first thing is, oh my goodness, this is like super, the flower spikes on this thing are super long. This orchid was extremely beautiful. My sister gave it to me after I had the baby, and she came to visit, and she came with this orchid. So I really like the fact that most of the orchids I have, most of them have a story like that. Like, I didn't just get them for the sake of getting an orchid. Some of them are, obviously, because you go to the store and you're like, oh, what a pretty flower, and you see the flowers and they look pretty. But a lot of them are like my sister, most of them my husband gets for me, and I would have had more, but I didn't know that when they're, yes, puppy, hold on. Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot what I was talking about, but anyway, this thing is huge. But anyway, this thing is huge, and I did, whoa, I did get this from my sister, so I just like knowing and having like those stories behind the orchids, but obviously they don't have to have a story like that. Okay, I don't even know how I'm going to take this out. That is Noah. I don't know what he's doing. Okay, let's see. Ooh, it smells musty in there. Okay. Wow, this has all of that moss in the center. So this was grown in moss and then they just put it with bark. Oh my word. See, when it comes to orchids like this, I tend to get not confused, but from experience, I have learned if you buy an orchid in bark, repot it in bark because it's used to that environment and it won't go through shock. Noah, shh. But if you buy an orchid in moss, just repot it in moss. Same thing. It won't go through the shock of having to get used to a new environment. But when I get them like this, where there's like both, that's when I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm actually going to do a blend. I have clay. I have some clay, I have bark, and I have some sphagnum moss. So I will just repot it in all of them. But first I need to like undo all of this. So let me try to do that and not worry about being in frame. Okay, this is gonna take forever, but this is not necessarily a tutorial, but just in case. You want to get some clean disinfected scissors. That way when you see roots that are black, that are mushy, basically that are dead, you can cut them off. I always forget to buy hydrogen peroxide, so I really do need to buy that so I can disinfect the roots when repotting, but I don't have any, and thankfully I don't see any pests in here, but it is obviously a good idea still to get hydrogen peroxide to disinfect the roots. But yeah, so y'all, this is a big mess. So this can take a really long time. The last time I repotted all of the orchids I had, and I didn't have as many as I do now, it took me like a good few hours. Just, this is the part that takes forever, is getting them out of the old medium, and then, you know, I should probably just cut this because I don't know if I want to cut the flower spikes back because they are kind of getting in the way, and so is this hook thing that the flower spike was attached to, but that's like in there, so I can't even pull it out. So this is going to take a long time. But yeah, so with my orchids, I've had my orchids for like 2 years now. That's when I finally learned that you do not have to throw them out when they're done flowering, because that is actually when they start their growth period. Okay, like this has all these little white dots. Oh my gosh, I hope those aren't like eggs or something. So this is why I wish I had something to really clean the roots, but I am going to give it like a good wash under the sink. Yeah, so I've had my orchids, like I said, for about a couple of years now. I kind of go through periods where I don't take care of my plants, so they might go longer without water than they need to, and therefore they just weren't really being taken care of. And like I said, I'm not a professional. I don't make my own mixes. I just buy whatever's at the store, and maybe someday I can take better care of the plants, but for now it's more of a hobby. It's not like a big priority, and so yeah, so if you see me doing something that you're like, no, don't do that, just, you know. Okay. So since I've had those orchids, a lot of them don't look too hot. Some of them don't look too hot. And those are just ones that, like I said, I've had for the 2 years. I didn't really take care of them because I didn't really know what I was doing, or I just didn't, well, I mean, yeah, basically I didn't know what I was doing. So with one of them, the one that was in that big terracotta pot, that is the first orchid ever that I got to rebloom. And the blooms didn't last a super long time. It gave me 4 flowers. It was so pretty. It was just really fun when I finally noticed that it was growing a flower spike. And then that same orchid actually grew 2 keikis before it even grew the flower spike. That was shortly after, the keikis were shortly after I repotted it though. And that one, like I said, it was in here for a really long time. But yeah, so that was a couple of years ago. Basically after I got it, it flowered, I repotted it. The one that's linked in the videos below, that's the orchid I'm talking about. We call it Old Faithful just because it's, just because it has just done the most for me. So my husband calls it Old Faithful. And when it grew the flower spike, I was super excited. Took a while once, you know, you see the spike coming in, and then you finally see the buds, and then the buds take a while to grow, and I was afraid it'd get bud blast, but thankfully it was all good, and then it bloomed. So it gave me 4 beautiful flowers, and I have 4 kids now, so I told my girls, look, oh look, this is you, and that's Lucy, and that's Noah, that's the baby. So yeah, that was fun. But yeah, the flowers, I think it was only in bloom for like a few weeks. Normally when you buy an orchid from the store, you notice, oh, it's been like a month and the flowers are still going strong, sometimes 2 months. But I think it's because that one really needed a bigger pot. I thought it was only a year that I've had it. So when I repotted all my orchids this past spring, I did not give it a bigger pot, and it did not, I think it didn't appreciate that. Obviously it was still growing and everything, and it gave me the two blooms when it was still in this white pot. But I think that it didn't hold on to the blooms that long because that's also, I think that was before I had the baby, and I just didn't have time to, oh, what is that? I don't know what that is. I didn't have time to take care of it, to water it. It was in bark. I live in Texas. It gets really hot over the summer, so I wasn't consistently keeping up with watering it or fertilizing it. And then, like I said, there was like roots growing through the holes of this pot. It had outgrown it. So I think just a combination of all, that's what I'm thinking, is that a combination of all of that is why the blooms only lasted like a few weeks before they started to fall. I think I'm just gonna cut these back. So this one actually still has a couple of blooms. I am just going to put this in water and see what happens. I wish I could take this thing out. It's like in the center of all this mess, so I can't take this plastic thing out, but I don't remember what I was saying. I know I was talking about Old Faithful. So yeah, that's what happened with that one. I was just super happy to see that it bloomed. It also, I didn't do the whole, like, if you're familiar with orchids, or even if you're not familiar with orchids, like they need the temperature difference to you know, go into bloom. I didn't do that. I basically repotted it in its new medium. It's fresh bark, basically. It went from bark to bark again. So I think that's the second time I repotted that one. I just didn't give it a bigger pot. But after that, I bought the spray, the orchid spray that you just mist it on the leaves and it feeds it instantly. And I kid you not, like within a couple of weeks is when I saw the flower spike growing. It didn't do anything special. I moved all my plants to where they are now. So I gave it fresh medium. you know, watered it more consistently, fertilized it, and the location it's at, it has much better light than where it was. So I think just a combination of all of that, it loved it, and it gave me those new flowers. What's so wrong with you? Okay. But yeah, I mean, I know a lot of the basic orchid things. I know that they need the temperature difference. I know that they need really good lighting. So I know enough, but there we go. So after that, I got excited. I got some more orchids, and I do have some different types of plants. I was kind of just focused on orchids for a while. And then when it comes to orchids, my husband got me a Miltonia orchid, which was beautiful. But that one died. I don't know why it died. I was basically watering it the same as I did my Phalaenopsis orchids. When the bark it was in was drying out, I would water it. And I use filtered water as well. I don't use tap water. Before that, I would buy gallons of water because we didn't have like a filter system, whatever it's called. So I would just water it with, oh gosh. Oh, I forgot to take a before picture. Oh well. Anyway, I forgot to, what am I saying? Yeah, with that orchid. And I don't know what happened basically. Oh, the water. The water, that's what I was talking about. Was the watering. I don't even know what I'm doing now. Oh my gosh, it's like super tangled up. Let's see. So, used filtered water. I didn't have a filter system, so I would buy like 4 or 5 gallons of distilled water, and I had very few orchids. And then, you know, they were in bark, so I could just like dunk them in water, and I would just kind of recycle that water with my orchids. And then eventually I would use the water and dump it into my rose bush outside. Not a rose bush, it was like a potted thing of roses. And then those eventually died. They died because I didn't take care of them. This summer, actually, they just died this summer, or this spring. The roses did. And I was really sad because they were very pretty. But like I said, I had my baby, and it was just harder to make sure the plants had the care they needed, because I was obviously taking care of my baby and myself, and then my house and my husband and kids and all that good stuff. So the plants just kind of got sidetracked. Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm like cracking and breaking some of these roots. And yes, I know I've seen people that will soak the roots before, that way everything's like loosened up. But like I said, this is I do this as a hobby. This is fun. I've done this with a few orchids. I promise I'll get better in the future, but for now I have time to repot one, so I'm gonna repot it. Okay, and then when it dies, then I'll be crying, and y'all can say I told you so. Okay. Oh, also with Old Faithful, is that what I called it? My husband calls it Old Faithful. I call it Old Reliable because I grew up on SpongeBob, and Old Reliable is what SpongeBob named his jellyfishing net. So, Old Reliable. When I repotted that one the first time, it had like little to no dead roots. The root system was super gorgeous on that. And I got that orchid from IKEA. So it was like in great condition, doing awesome. It grew 2 keikis, like I said. I cut one off on purpose just so the second one can have all the energy from the mother plant. And then when that one grew 1 root, it was literally 1 root, but it was like 4 or 5 inches long. No, maybe like 4 inches long. I ended up I ended up cutting that one off, thinking that that one root was enough, and potting it, and it immediately, like within a couple of days, it just died. The leaves were all withered and it was not doing well. So the other orchid, I don't know if you caught it earlier in the video, I do have an orchid that is growing a keiki right now. So I'm just gonna leave that one on there until it has a very good developed root system. And then I will probably pot that one in moss. So I will just let it grow, wrap moss around the roots so it kind of gets used to that environment before I cut it off of the mother plants. So that'll be exciting. That'll be something new for me to try to keep the keiki alive. And I think that one is a white orchid as well. So this one's white and that one is also white with, I think, very light pink. Okay, so we are making progress here. I'm going to dump all of this and wash my hands because anytime I do anything with any of my plants, my hands get itchy. And I do have gloves. I just didn't think to put them on. But let me deal with this and then I will be right back. Okay, so here is progress on it. I think there's still a lot in, well, not a lot, some in the center there. I'm just kind of feeling around for anything that is mushy that needs to get cut off, but there really wasn't very much that was dead. This is actually kind of firm, but I just saw the black up here, so I cut it. Although I don't think it really needed to be cut. So yeah, this is looking pretty good. Huge root system, so definitely needed something bigger than that. But like I said, I can always just go and get a larger pot eventually. For now, I just wanted to get it in something fresh. And I always give it a good wash under the sink as well. So it is all wet because that's what I was doing as I'm taking off all the old stuff. I'm rinsing it. But I think that's it. I think that this is basically how it's gonna look. I'm sorry if it wasn't in focus. I was looking at the plant and not at the camera. And then there's the two little flowers that are left. I just put them in here. So like I said, the flowers look like they're upside down, but that's okay. So we'll leave it like that. Actually, I'll probably cut it and put it in there with that. That might look kind of cute over here in the kitchen. But there we go. So I have, what is it? I have this from, just throw that on the floor, from IKEA, some clay. And then I have bark, just whatever orchid bark. So there we go. I'm gonna just do a little bit of everything in here, and then I almost always, with my repots, will top off the orchids with moss just to help keep the moisture in there as long as possible, because like I said, I live in Texas where in the summer it gets super hot and then I have to water them like all the time, which wasn't an issue at first, but now that I have so many orchids, it can take a while, especially when I have them potted in something like this, because they gotta sit in the water for quite some time. So I do need to water some of my other orchids, so I'll probably just finish off the video with that. No more talking from me, so just enjoy the rest of the video, and thank you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.